watching Alena Media TV with me, Janet Agbalanyo, as your host. And today is African history. We'll be delving into the Blue Nile River. Before we continue, let's go for a break. When we come back, it still continues. Welcome back from the break. Just as I said, today is African history, and then we are looking at the Blue Nile River. Before we continue, let's look at what the Blue Nile River is. A Blue Nile River is a river originating in a natural spring above Lake Tana in Ethiopia. The river has played a significant role in human history by supplying the majority of the water for the Nile River, providing the means for the land through which it flowed to be agriculturally productive, having the Nile's floodwater to depend on, gave rise to stable early human settlement and the ancient Egyptian civilization. Today, dams along the Blue Nile in Sudan produced 80% of that country's electric power. The Sudanese dam also helped irrigate the Gizara Plain, which produces cotton, wheat, and other crops. The Blue Nile is also tapped to supply significant amounts of electric power, not only for Ethiopia, but primarily nations through which it flows, but also neighboring Kenya, Djibouti, and Sudan. Along its upper reaches in Ethiopia, the river is called the Abai. This stretch of a river is considered holy by many Ethiopians and is believed to be the Gihon River mentioned as flowing out of the Garden of Eden in the book of Genesis. The Abai portion of the Blue Nile rises at Lake Tana and flows for 30 kilometers before plunging over the Tis Asat Fall. The river then lopes across the northwest Ethiopia through a series of deep valleys and canyons into Sudan. The annual flood in Egypt is a gift of the annual monsoon in Ethiopia. In the winter, when little rain falls in the highlands, the Blue Nile, also known as the Asmara rivers, dry up. In the summer, moist winds from the Indian Ocean cool as they climb up the Ethiopian highlands, bringing torrential rains that fill the dry washes and canyons that ration water that ultimately join the Blue Nile or the Asmara. Although there are several feeder streams that flows into Lake Tana, the sacred source of the river is generally considered to be a small spring at Gish Abba at the altitude of approximately 5,905 feet or 1,800 miles. The Blue Nile, which later joins the White Nile at Khartoum, South Sudan, and at the Nile, flows through Egypt at the Mediterranean Sea at Alexandria. The Blue Nile is so called because during the flood times of water current is so high that it changes color to almost black. In the local Sudanese language, the word for black is also used for blue. The distance from its source to its confluence is variously reported as 1,460 and 1,600 kilometers. The uncertainty over its length partially results from the fact that it flows through virtually impenetrable gorges cut in Ethiopia highlands to a depth of some 4,950 feet, a depth comparable to that of the Grand Canyon in the United States. The Blue Nile flows south from Lake Tana and west across Ethiopia and northwest into Sudan. Within 18.6 miles of its source at Lake Tana, the river enters a canyon about 400 kilometers long. This gorge is a tremendous obstacle for travel and communication between the northern and the southern hills of Ethiopia. The power of the Blue Nile may best be appreciated at Tis Isatat Falls, which are 148 feet high. Despite the hazard and obstacle of the river, on January 29, 2005, Canadian Les Jackley and New Zealander Mark Turner reached the Mediterranean Sea after an epic 148-day journey, becoming the first to have paddled the Blue Nile from source to sea. The flow of the Blue Nile reaches maximum volume of a rainy season from June to September, when it supplies about 2/3 of the water of the Nile proper, the Blue Nile along the Asmara River to the north, which also flows out of Ethiopian highland, were responsible for the annual Nile floods that contributed to the fertility of the Nile River and the consequent rise of ancient Egyptian civilization and Egyptian mythology. With the completion in 1970 of the Aswan High Dam in Egypt, the Nile flood ended. Despite being the source of most of the Nile's water, Ethiopia had limited rights to it. Egypt and Sudan, through the agreement of 1959, split use of these resources in 1999. The Nile Basin Initiative was created to foster cooperation between all 10 countries in the Nile Basin. Let's take a look at the economy regarding to the Blue Nile. The Blue Nile is vital to the livelihood of Egypt, through shorter than the White Nile. 56% of the water that reaches Egypt originated from the Blue Nile branches of the Great River, when combined with the Asmara River, which also has its sources in Ethiopian highland. The figure rises to 90% of water and 96% of transported sediments. The river is also an important source for Sudan, where the Rezias and Sinai dams produce 80% of the country's power. This dam also help irrigate the Giziria plain, which is most famous for its high-quality cotton. The region also produces wheat and animal feed crops. The Tis-Isat for Blue Nile falls consistent of 4 streams that generally varied from a stickle in the dry season to over 400 meters wide in the rainy season. Regulation of Lake Tana now reduces the variation somewhat, and since 2003, the hydroelectric station has taken much of the flow out of the falls, except during the rainy season. The falls were once considered one of Ethiopia's best-known tourist attractions, but in recent years, almost no water comes over the fall due to the new hydropower plants. Ethiopia has one of the lowest level of energy consumption per capita in the world. Only about 22% of the population has access to electricity. Electric supply is under the Ethiopian Electric Power Corporation, that is the EEPCO. The state-owned company currently provides electricity to over 1 million customers in 1,752 towns and communities in Ethiopia, which is only a small proportion of the country's over 70 million inhabitants. Ethiopia is building 5 hydropower dams to be completed by 2011, with the aim of increasing capacity to 9,000 megawatts by 2019, with surplus power exported to neighboring Kenya, Djibouti, and Sudan. This ends the African news. Kindly share your thoughts and comments on our social media handles. We would like to know what you think about this particular episode. Thank you for watching.